On July 6, 2026, a 41-year-old man cried on a football pitch in Texas, and millions of strangers who have never met him cried too. That reaction alone should feel strange. He's not our friend, our family, or even someone we've spoken to. But psychologists have a name for exactly this feeling, and it's more real than you think. It's called a parasocial relationship, a one-sided emotional bond with someone who has no idea you exist. The term was first coined back in 1956, long before social media made it a daily part of life. Our brains simply don't distinguish well between a face we've seen 1,000 times on screen and a face we've seen 1,000 times in person. So when we watch someone for years, their triumphs, their struggles, their tears, our brain quietly files them as someone we know. Which brings us back to July 6th, the day Cristiano Ronaldo played his sixth and final World Cup match. Portugal lost 1-0 to Spain in the final minute of stoppage time, a heartbreak decided in seconds. At 41 years old, this was his last realistic shot at the one trophy that had eluded his entire career. He walked off the pitch, wiped tears from his eyes, and simply said he was sad to leave the World Cup this way. Within minutes, that image was everywhere, and millions of people felt something twist in their chest. That twist has a name, too. Psychologists call it parasocial breakup. It happens whenever the focus of a one-sided bond disappears from public view, through retirement, cancellation, or death. Researchers first studied this using an unlikely case, how fans felt 1 week after the sitcom Friends went off the air. They found genuine, measurable grief responses, not from losing a person, but from losing routine emotional connection. Since then, decades of research have confirmed the same pattern with athletes, actors, musicians, and public figures of every kind. A 2023 study found something fascinating. How close you feel to someone matters more than whether the bond is real or one-sided. In other words, if you feel like you truly know Ronaldo after 20 years of watching him, your brain treats the loss almost the same as losing someone in your real life. That's not weakness or delusion. It's just how deeply human brains are wired to bond with repeated, familiar faces. But there's a second layer to why this particular goodbye hit so hard. It wasn't just about him. It was about time itself. Ronaldo's first World Cup was in 2006, meaning some fans have literally never lived through a World Cup without him in it. Psychologists call this identity fusion, when a public figure becomes quietly woven into your own sense of self and your memories. Watching him retire from the World Cup stage isn't just watching an athlete leave. It's a quiet reminder that your own younger self is gone too. That's why so many comments under his farewell post weren't really about football at all. They were about growing up. There's also a third layer here, and it's a little more uncomfortable. We don't just grieve people, we grieve stories. The Messi-Ronaldo rivalry has been one long-running narrative for almost 2 decades, and every long story eventually needs an ending. Losing a character you follow for 20 years, even a real one, triggers the same narrative closure response as finishing a beloved book series. Interestingly, Ronaldo himself didn't seem to want a dramatic ending. He called it normal and said he was leaving with a clear conscience. That contrast is fascinating. The person at the center of the story felt calm, while millions of outside observers felt heartbroken. This mismatch is actually really common in parasocial grief. The fans often feel the loss more intensely than the public figure appears to. And that's completely fine. Feeling this way isn't strange, dramatic, or something to be embarrassed about. Researchers note it can even be healthy. Grieving a public figure lets us practice empathy in a low-stakes, safe emotional space. But there's a line worth knowing. Psychologists call the extreme end of this celebrity worship syndrome, and it's linked to worse well-being over time. The difference is simple. Healthy fandom adds color to your life, while unhealthy fandom starts replacing the relationships already in it. For the vast majority of fans crying over football farewell, none of that applies. It's just a completely normal human response. There's also a collective piece to this. Grieving alongside millions of strangers feels different from grieving alone. Sociologist Emil Durkheim called this collective effervescence, the powerful, almost spiritual feeling of sharing a peak emotion with a crowd. That's part of why sports moments hit so much harder than watching the same emotion happen to someone alone in private. So when you cried or felt a lump in your throat watching that farewell, you weren't crying for a stranger. You were crying with everyone else who felt it too. Ronaldo said something else after the game that's easy to miss. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, and we need to keep going. That's oddly good advice for processing parasocial grief, too. You don't need closure from them, because the ending was never really about them. It was about the version of you who watched his first World Cup goal, and how far you've come since then. So the next time a public farewell catches you off guard emotionally, you'll know exactly what's happening in your brain, and why it's nothing to be embarrassed about. It doesn't make you obsessive. It doesn't make you strange. It makes you exactly as human as everyone else who felt it. And maybe that's the quiet gift hidden inside these strange, one-sided farewells. Proof that we're still capable of feeling something for someone else, in a world that often feels disconnected. That's not something to dismiss. It's something worth paying attention to. So whether it's an athlete, an actor, or a character from your favorite show, the next time a goodbye catches you off guard, you'll understand exactly why. So the next time your chest tightens watching someone you've never met say goodbye, let it happen. It just means you're paying attention to your own life. If this changed how you think about why we cry over strangers, hit that like button, share it with someone who felt it too, and subscribe for more of the science behind how your mind actually works.